Hi, I'm Lily. Today I'm going to show you some behind the scenes of my last stop motion animation called To Fit In. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to put a link above and in the description below. In my last two videos, I've shown in detail how I made my two sets, the cave home and this one. In this video, I'm going to give you a little tour of my workshop, my setup, equipment, the new gear that I tested out. In this animation, I wanted to focus on lighting. I'm a complete beginner in lighting, and so far I've eyeballed just about everything. And this is a technique that only goes so far. So I was very lucky to have a talented DP, Theo Ribeiro, who came over to my workshop to show me how to use my equipment. Because it's one thing to buy the equipment, it's another to know how to use it properly. So I spent the whole day with him just testing things out and see how he can completely transform an animation by just different lighting, colors, and honestly, it's worth putting the time into it. So I'm going to show you what works, what didn't work, and hopefully some of it will be useful for your own project. Enjoy this video. Welcome to my workshop. To create this stop motion animation, I use my desktop with Dragon Frame installed on it. The desktop is connected to my camera so I can take the picture remotely. Then I have a set of 3 LED panel lights, usually one above the set, one on the side and one on the back. I've used the same camera to shoot all my stop motion animations so far. It's a Canon EOS RP. I only had one lens so far, a 24-105, but I decided to treat myself and invest into a 70-200. This is a lovely lens because it creates some wonderful shots, such as this one, but also because I can position my camera further away from the sets. I mean, in some situation like this one, when I have my 3 walls in shots, I have a very limited amount of space to get in and out of the set to animate my puppets. So the fact that I can position my camera on a tripod further away allow more space, and it's less risk for me to kick the camera when I'm actually moving in and out. I've got a kit of 3 LED panel lights, GVM 800D, which are awesome and very versatile. 2 of them have diffusers. So I usually have a main one on top of the set on the C-stand, and I make sure I design my ceilings on all my sets with some kind of opening. In this case, it's a copper ceiling, and I make sure I had no back so I can actually place a paper back. And in this situation, I had 2 layers of paper to diffuse the light. Then I had the other LED panel light on the side with diffuser, and the third one at the back. For the third one, I decided to use some tracing paper to diffuse the light even more. And I've taped the tracing paper on 2 big clamp on the table to make sure that the light doesn't only reach the central door, because those 3 doors have silhouette in them and I wanted the light to be diffused throughout. Another brilliant piece of gear that I've invested in is Aputure 60X, and this isn't cheap, but it creates an incredible strong light so you can cast shadow with it. By the way, I'm not sponsored by any brand, so any single equipment that I mention here is just because I enjoy using them and I think they're really good for the job, not because I'm paid to say so. This particular lighting was able to create a really cool shadow inside of my set. And if you see the lighting on the floor that appear from this top right window, that's this specific light. So if I show you the lighting step by step, you have first all the micro LEDs, which are included into the wall. Then I have my top panel light, the side one, the back one, and then the super strong Aputure light. Another brilliant piece of gear is Aputure MC. Those are really small, completely versatile, and you can change anything from colors, contrast, saturation, intensity, and I've used them on almost every single shot. Because they're so small, they're perfect fits for my miniature sets. I don't use them to directly light onto the character. I bounce them onto the wall or onto a piece of foam board. I'm lucky to have one of those LED lamps that have an extendable arm, which is very useful for this application. So I just tape a piece of foam board onto the lamp and adjust it until I found the right amount of light to bounce back on it. What I really appreciate with those Aputure lights is that I can adjust them from my phone with an app, so you can really get into the detail of how much intensity you want, and you can change the color from it and just about anything. So I can control the little MC LED panel light and the top strong light as well from the same app. And if you go for one of those tiny LED panel, I recommend having a GorillaPod in different sizes, which is very useful. Having the lighting in place is really important, but also having sets that are very flexible so you can really create some awesome shots. And for that, I spend lots of time designing and creating sets that are completely flexible. So I can remove every single wall, ceiling, I can turn them around, shoot from every angle I want. And I think it's worth taking the time in the initial stage to design something that's going to give you all the creative freedom to create some amazing animation. So there's no regret when you're animating thinking, oh, I wish I can shoot it from that angle. No, I can't, because everything is just removable. I take the drill, remove a few screws, job is done. The main set I've used on the first part of my animation is divided into two parts. One big part is actually 2/3 and the other part. I can join them together, but I knew there will be only one shot, or actually one scene, when they appear both at the same time. For the rest, I prefer to work with the sets separated because they are smaller, so I can get my camera in there much closer. In one of the scenes, you can see a character stamping a piece of paper. And to create that scene, I've actually removed the head of the puppet so I can have a better shot with my camera all the way up on my tripod. And I use two pieces of paper, one that isn't stamped and the other one that is. And I can just simply replace one by the other and place them in the exact same position so that you can feel that the stamp was actually functional when there's no ink whatsoever on it. Now when I was done with the main set, I can take it away and then work with the last bit, which was smaller, so it's easier to work with. I put my puppet back in, screw the feet together, place my camera up front and start to work on the second part of my animation. So now in this part of the story, the puppet approached the door that is supposed to be the entrance to hell, enter a little corridor, and then come out of it in the space that is supposed to be hell. So to create that, first I play around with my little MC panel and try to burst as much of red light I could through the door opening at the top. Then I create a little tunnel. I made it from scratch as everything else, and I built it out of studs, 18mm plywood, so I knew it would be the same height than the rest of the set. For the front part, I've used some foam board, and then the curved part is made with clear Worbla coated with a clear PVA and acrylic paints, and I've applied with a sponge, which gives this really cool effect. As soon as you put light on it, you can see it, and it's much interesting than having just red plastic sheets. This little tunnel has two different openings, one with a curved door, and it's supposed to be the entrance to hell, and the other one with a straight door. So I position my tunnel in place and try to line it up with the straight door and start playing around with my lights. First I thought it would be good to have it outside of the tunnel, and then as soon as I checked on my computer I realized no, it needs to be in, because I wanted to make sure I had all the light on the character going through the door. It needed to be much closer for that. Then once my character was inside of the tunnel, I place one LED panel light above the set and the little MC panel on the side. Play around with the top one to make sure I had the texture as I liked. And then for the side light, I play around with my phone again just to adjust the lighting, because as you can see, it gives a really nice touch on the neck of the puppet. Otherwise the puppet would be too dark and it disappear. And I think that light was crucial to create this really nice look. Then I was trying to get the puppet to open the other door, and I realized how small my opening was, because usually I have two hands to animate my puppet, and here the opening was so small I can only fit one hand. So that part of animation is very short, and I wish I could have the opening bigger so I can animate it better. Another thing worth playing with is color temperature. So if you go in your camera setting on Dragon Frame, you can see the color temperature and change the number, and that makes a significant change from something really cold to something really warm. It's just a type of setting that I've discovered, and it made such difference for my animation. Another thing I've added and play with is small micro LEDs. You can buy them very cheap on the internet, they're like Christmas lights, and I group maybe a dozen of them together and start placing them behind my character, and as you can see, you can create some really cool silhouette effects. This set, as with any other set I'm creating, is very flexible and versatile, so I can really turn it around and shot it from every angle, so I know I have a combination of view of this set. It's just much more interesting to look at with a variety of shots. Some scenes take forever. If you have maybe a blink, that takes a while. So far I've often used some blinks that are pre-cooked. And if you look at my other tutorials about how I make my puppets, that's usually how I do it. But I realized that with some skin tone, depending how I do my mixes with the clay, when I cook them, it changed the color of the clay, and I wasn't too happy with that difference. So I end up sculpting every little eyelid myself. It takes more time, but it looks better, because basically you have to resculpt the surrounding of the eye every time. At the end of the day, if it looks better, that's what mattered to me. Another thing that helped with those tiny details is something I found for probably £12 on eBay. It's just a brilliant purchase. It's a head mount magnifier with some LED light, and it's such a useful tool to get into every single detail. Honestly, it made a huge difference for me. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour of my workshop. Creating those stop animation is incredibly time consuming and energy consuming. I probably spent 70 hours in the darkroom animating those puppets image by image, on top of maybe over 200 hours set, and then the puppets, and then the post-production. Everything takes forever, but it's just magical. And I'm lucky to have some wonderful assistants. Realistically, they're not the most efficient one, but they're adorable, and when you spend so many hours on your own sculpting, building, or whatever, it's just nice to have a bit of company. So I'm very lucky to have some furry companion for that, and I hope you have some cuddly companion too. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're making your own animation, I wish you all the best. Good luck. I know that there's so much more work, time and effort that people actually realize. So keep at it, be patient, you'll get there. Take care.